What if it was a Tholian? That's what I would have wrote. And then Awakening has to figure out how to fight the Tholian, and then she comes up with some kind of strategy to bang two spoons together and create some kind of radio frequency that... You all ready for Discovery Season 4, Episode 8, All In? Are you double or nothing? Are you pedal to the metal? Are you know what? I don't know when to hold them, and I don't know when to fold them. So let's just put it all on red. Is this episode about gambling? Yes, it is. This title actually refers to something that kind of happens in the episode, and you'll see in a moment. All In, Episode 8 of Star Trek Discovery, I must say, Season 4, I must say was, for me, confusing. I had to watch this a lot to figure out what happened. The beginning is interesting and makes sense. The end is interesting and makes sense. But the center, the meat of it, maybe I'm slow. Maybe I'm dumb. I couldn't exactly follow what was happening. The dialogue was moving too fast. There was too much idiomatic speech. Too many turns of phrase. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But overall, the episode was far from terrible. If you excuse a few lapses in reason and judgment, and you're willing to look past a few subversions of reality, you can make do with this episode, I'll say. It makes do. So without further ado, let's get into what exactly is going on in All In. All my chips are in. Our chips are in, guys. And this is the first episode we had of Discovery since its break. We had a much-needed break from Star Trek Discovery to watch a few weeks' worth of Star Trek Prodigy. Thank you. But now we're back to the bad old days of Discovery, where everything's angry, everything's sad, and nothing makes sense. And the points don't matter, because this is about jambling. So at the beginning of this episode, we're picking up right where we left off, Book and Tarka. If you don't know, I'll do a very brief summary of what happened before our break. Ruan, Tarka, Cleveland, Booker steal the next generation top secret version of the Spore Drive from Starfleet. Okay, it's portable. It melds into any ship interface. It's fantastic. They stole that, and they're going to use it to attempt to put a bomb into the DMA, which is a hyper-destructive unknown force in the universe right now, going around destroying planets. And Starfleet thinks that the DMA is actually linked to an uncontacted species that's hyper-advanced and can destroy Starfleet if they don't play their cards right. Cards, wink wink. Anyway, they're stealing the Spore Drive, and they're going to use this bomb to destroy the DMA. While Starfleet wants to go in peacefully and try to contact them and try not to start a war. So it is essential that we catch Booker. It is essential that we stop them from what they're doing. And on top of all that, Michael is in love with Booker, and Book is in love with her. And they are now star-crossed, as it were. Booker has to stop the DMA. Michael has to stop Booker. What's going to happen? Well, Vance is running around Starfleet headquarters saying, "Oh, scramble all the ships, scramble the Eisenberg class, the shuttles, I don't care." And what a strange way to refer to your ships. He just refers to, what is he referring to? A whole swath of ships. The Eisenberg class, shuttles. Why don't they just call it what it is? U.S.S. whatever. Like, you know, just... On a side note, Discovery in this season seems very confused about what a ship class is. You know, like, they call the new Voyager the new Intrepid class. Like, it's actually an Intrepid class. The Voyager J. In Season 4, I'm serious. even though it's obviously not an Intrepid class when you look at it. You need to have a new class. As you know, as far as Star Trek is concerned, I mean, I don't know how this would work in reality, but I do know that traditionally, even if a ship looks similar to another ship, doesn't mean they're the same class. There's also a new Constitution class. I don't know why. Why do they call this new ship the Constitution class? You can barely see it, thank God, because I don't want to lay my eyes on it. But it's there. So what do you think happens? Well, Vance and Michael get a dressing down from the president again. It's how many, like, getting a dressing down from your superiors and then coming out on top, despite them, is the theme of Discovery. It happens in the first, 2 episodes of Discovery. Michael causes a civil war, gets a dressing down from her superiors, and then comes out on top. And it happened a million times since, and then now it's happening again. So, Michael is in love with Book, and they're, close. And Vance is in control of Starfleet. And look at the lapse in judgment. The lapse in security that caused Tarka and Book to get away with what they did. And the president rightfully is dressing them down over it. Like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Blah, blah, blah. You're wrong. What are you going to do to make it right? And you just know, if you've watched Discovery up to this point, that they're going to get away with it. And you get dressed down by your superiors. And then you just win. You do dress down by superiors, make a bunch of mistakes, disregard your orders, win. And then even number 5, get congratulated for it by other characters later. That's Discovery. So, and I'm not saying that didn't exist before in Star Trek. Saying something happened before in Star Trek is not an excuse. Right? It's a mistake a lot of people make. If I say something's bad here, and then you say, oh, but this happened in TNG, blah, blah, doesn't make it good. As time goes by, you learn and develop new skills for your writing, and the episodes get better and better, right? And you don't need to rely on old crutches as much. That's when you go to the future. You're doing better. You're taking what works and you're leaving what didn't. There's nothing wrong with the old shows. They're amazing, but you need to understand that you can't use precedent as a crutch. So with that out of the way, Michael is told, okay, you need to go do research on this thing. We need to find out more about the 10C, which is what we're calling the unknown civilization that quote-unquote created the DMA. You need to go find out more information on them. And now, Michael, you don't do anything I'm not telling you to do, okay? Don't go off on some wild goose chase, okay? You do what you're supposed to do, right? Uh-huh, okay. So, what do you think Michael does? Well, in not so many words, she goes just to find Book and convince Book to stop doing what he's doing, which is not what she's supposed to do. But because it's a Discovery, we get away with it. And this episode is rife with self-congratulations, especially for Away-Shikan. There was a moment a few episodes ago, or last episode, where Away-Shikan was blatantly out of line and questioning the chain of command on the bridge, causing a disruption, which you shouldn't do, unless you're crazy, like me. And they take time out of this episode to make her feel better for having done it. Michael actually takes Away-Shikan aside and say, listen, I know what you did on the bridge and blah, blah. It's okay. I know what it's like to want to do things. And listen, you're morally correct on this, okay? Okay. Let's kiss. Just why? We take the time. We go back, find out where people were slighted, and then forgive them later. It's stupid. Like they're a baby and they can't get over it. Holy crap. Dude, if you've seen the antics that people have got up to with each other before, if you've seen, like, Archer, like, being this... Trip, you are this close to insubordination, okay? If you've seen Star Trek Enterprise, and they get over it, they suck it up, and they get over it, and they take their lumps, And it's all very funny. And here it's not. Womp womp. So, of course, Michael's like, well, I was a courier for a year, so I know blah, blah, blah. I know this guy here. And we can do all this blatantly unacceptable behavior in order to get what we want. So we're going to go trade some latinum to this guy called Mazora. Some guy on some other planet that's outside Federation territory. And the point of the matter is, this person has contact with a race called the Stilt, I think they're called. And the Stilt live close to the area of space where I think the 10C are. I don't know why we know all this or how we know it, but this would have taken one episode in TOS to figure all this out. Like, it's not just a trend in Star Trek, but it's a trend in all television, where we're creating a plot where we have A, and then we have D, okay? In the old days, you would go A, B, C, D, and you would get to where you were going in one episode, and it was fine, okay? Now, what we do is we write a plot. We need to go to A to D, but then first we need to go to C, and then we need to go back to B, and then we need to go all the way back to A, and then we have to go up here to E, and then F, and then we go all the way to G, and then we come back to A again, and then we go B, C, and then D, and then we're finally at the end. It's just, you think you're creating a plot, but really you're just creating a web of lies. As I was saying, we need to get to Majora's Karma Burge. And I will say that this episode had a few good little bits of visual acting. I think the acting was kind of an improvement in this episode. There's a few moments where you can see characters go, or psh. It was an interesting touch. I think we've gone a long way towards humanizing these characters in this season. And me personally, your mileage may vary, but I find the characters a little bit easier to watch this season. I think we're getting a little bit more comfortable with who these characters are. Michael especially. I find Michael way easier to watch this season than before. You may think differently, but however, Book finds out that he needs isolinium. So, Ruwan Tarka, being the genius that he is, realizes it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So, he told Book that, we just need to steal the spore drive, and then we can take this bomb into the DMA and we'll be fine. He didn't mention that they need isolinium. And Ruwan Tarka just assumed that Book would know where to get it, and he did. And it just so happens that Michael and Booker are on a collision course, as it were. We're both going to Karma Burge. Michael is going ostensibly to get star charts on the 10C civilization from the Stilt, but buying them from Mazora. And Book is going there for isolinium that he needs to build the bomb to destroy, quote-unquote, the DMA. Mazora's Karma Barge is like a gambling ship. Okay, it's on this planet. It looks like it's in the middle of some kind of ocean, guarded by some kind of strange hologram. It's a den of thievery and slime, and we don't really want to be there. We are Starfleet, and if we are going there, we definitely would not be wearing our uniforms, right? This is, in Star Trek in the past, when we needed to go to these places, oftentimes we would take off the uniform, right? Just not to raise suspicion. That's what you would do, right? If you were going out into the Badlands and going to a casino, essentially, you would take this off, right? I mean, we already took off our badges because we're not in Federation territory and our badges don't mean anything. And since they're like some kind of piece of technology, we have to check it at the door, right? No. Wrong. In this episode, we don't take our uniforms off. We don't have normal person clothes on. We're just walking right in with our uniforms. right into this den of thieves. So, Michael needs these star charts, and she pays up, and she's basically getting them, and she's there with a way she can. Good thing she took somebody with her. And Michael's there with Ruan Tarka, and Michael's trying to get isolinium. Book's out of money. Turns out the isolinium is going to be very expensive because of the presence of other bidders. And we all know who the other bidder is. It's Michael. How is Book going to get the isolinium? Well, a few very confusing conversations later that I could scarcely follow. Has Mizora, he's cool. He's got a cool design. I like the cut of his jib. But I can barely understand him because he speaks all in little colloquial idioms like, "Dang, I used to know you when you were knee-high to a boll weevil. Well, 20 times this is 250 coconut miles in a dry desert with a turtle." I don't know what he was saying half the time. I just kind of had to massage it in my brain until it made sense. Turns out that has a problem. Has a problem. And that's that he can't catch the cheaters. There's cheaters in his karma barrage. I hate that. I mean, who doesn't have cheaters in their karma barrage, right? Well, not him after he gets Ruan Tarka on the job. In order to pay off the rest of the price of this isolinium, they agree to find cheaters in his gambling centaur. So they're looking for Gamblor. Where is Gamblor? He could be here anywhere. Turns out that the mysterious ring of cheaters that is undetectable to Has is actually just one changeling. So there's one changeling running the table. And we just kind of neutralize this changeling with some kind of device that Ruan invents. And we just leave it at that. Like, we're not concerned about changelings being around. Changelings in my day used to be a big deal. You know. So there's a myriad pointless scenes in the middle. They're just there for flavor. They're there to flesh out our characters. One of them being a conversation between Hugh Culber and Stamets. And there's this funny scene where Hugh is going crazy because Book was his responsibility. He was supposed to be a psychologist. He was supposed to help him. He didn't think this would happen. He's blaming it on himself. That's the only thing characters are allowed to do in this season in terms of personal failings is to fail at being perfect because they're failing because they're doing too much work. Because when these characters are being written, they were being written as if they were in a job interview. What's your problem? I'm too perfect. I work too hard. Sometimes I'm too hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist. That's every character in this series. Because that's the only way we're allowed to be flawed. So, in keeping with that, Hugh was cleaning the room as the drone is cleaning the room. And we don't want to see that drone. I hate those drones. I don't want to see any more drones like that in Star Trek. Okay? So, he was cleaning, and Paul's like, you know the robot cleans it for us, right? You don't have to be cleaning it. And then the robot comes up with a little brush or something, and he's like, "No! Stop! I told you! Go back to your dock!" And he screams that at the robot, and I'm just like, thank you, yes, this is what we all wanted to say. These stupid drones, the clash, so why do we need drones to clean things? Okay, you know, we had Roombas 200 and some years ago. Don't you think would be a little bit beyond having a drone clean the room? Maybe the furniture would clean itself somehow. I mean, didn't they have a baryon sweep before that? You know, people would get off the ship and they would sweep the entire thing with some kind of field. What is this? I'm sorry to get off on that tangent, but I don't like those drones. And I don't like how they look. I don't know why we need to be having cutesy robots for kids in this show. It's not interesting or fun or becoming of Star Trek. We're not on the right track with these robots, okay? So, we catch this changeling, and we're at loggerheads, okay? Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win the isolinium? Well, Awashikin gets this bright idea to fight this guy in this Gladiator Ring and to raise some more money to fight Book's bidding. And she fights this guy, and she loses twice, and then in the last round, she punches him in the balls. Like, good thing he had balls. We're thousands of light years away from anything. What if it was just a Gorn? What would she do? Like, just sheer luck that he happened to have a weak point like that. Like, come on. So many things in this. You'll realize that in Discovery, many things rely on luck. And as we all know, luck is not a strategy. Okay? Hope is not a strategy either. But luck shouldn't really be a factor in your plan. And if we're coming in here deciding just, I'm just going to fight in this Gladiator Ring with other aliens that I've never met before. Oh, what's the worst that can happen? And then you don't get destroyed, and somehow you punch them in the balls. It's like something you would see. It's like a sitcom. It's insane. Like that. It's not. Just try to imagine if this were written better, and the match that Awashkin had to enter into to win the money on this gambling ship, instead of it being just a human or whatever with balls, it was a Nausicaan. You know, it was just something crazy, like a way she wouldn't understand how to fight. You know, like what if it was a Tholian? That's what I would have wrote. And then Awashkin has to figure out how to fight the Tholian, and then she comes up with some kind of strategy to bang two spoons together and create some kind of radio frequency that confuses the Tholian's brain enough for her to like punch it in its head or something to screw around with its little crystalline lattice work, and it blows up. Oh yeah, dude. There's an episode. You can take that one to the bank. There's a free idea for you, CBS. That one's free. But that's not what happened. We just punched the guy in the balls and we got our money. So we're all in at the table. We're playing some kind of alien poker, and the way this was shown, we were taking the camera, looking at the cards, as if we're supposed to know what it means. And they specifically said this was some kind of alien poker. And I don't know about you, but I don't know how to play Earth poker. So if this was normal poker, I wouldn't know what I was looking at either. So I can only imagine how the average person would feel trying to look at a card game that they think is poker, but isn't poker, and is hella confusing. But suffice to say, all the players are out except for Book and Michael. What's going to happen? And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't emotionally invested a little bit, because these two lovers are now in a gambling match against each other where they both have to win, and whoever wins burns their bridges with the other one. Kind of interesting. It's one of the first times I was actually invested in a scene in this season, I will say. So, who's going to win? Book. Book wins. Book is better at this game than Michael. Therefore, Book wins. So, it looks like Michael failed. This is Michael. This is the most crafty and adept and unique and powerful captain that we have in our service, which is something I think is almost said in this episode, by the way, by Vance. And she figures out to put a tracking device on the isolinium. I'll give him credit. That's pretty smart. You take a no-win scenario and you turn it into a win-win for yourself. So even if I lose the game, I'm going to be able to track the isolinium. So we're not totally up shit's creek. Michael goes back to Starfleet and basically explains to the president, yeah, I did everything wrong. I totally disregarded your order. I barely knew what I was doing. I won purely out of luck. And sorry. And I should be busted back down to toilet cleaner. But hey, I put a cloak tracking device on the isolinium. So we're getting away with it. We're getting away with it again. Michael's off scot-free. Vance is off the hook because Michael didn't kill me Michael didn't kill everyone. Michael didn't at least start a civil war. So, what's the state of affairs? Book has the isolinium. He's building the bomb to destroy the DMA. Michael put a cloak tracking device on the isolinium, and now they're going after Book. So when we think of it, this episode ended with Michael needing to go after Book to stop him from attempting to destroy the DMA. Last episode ended with Michael needing to go after Book to stop him from destroying the DMA. See how we're trying to go from A to D, right? But we're just doing all this crazy shit, and then we're just back at A, and then we just go to D again. It's a plot with many... It's a plot with many winding garden paths to go down. Okay? When really we should just be staying on the highway. Lest we meet a highwayman who steals their knapsack full of French bread. That's not what happens. But we're lost in the garden path. And this episode would be entirely pointless if not for the last moment where they get the star charts and Stamets is processing them. You know, the ones that they originally bought from Has, Missouri. So the star charts that has revealed that species 10C, as it were, is cloaked in a gigantic bean-shaped bubble of force field, and they're very powerful. And guess what? All the different places that the DMA has been, the planets that it's destroyed, there is no traces of a chemical or material called boronite. Boronite has been entirely removed from these places, entirely removed from the debris field. Why did we need 8 episodes or so to figure that out? You would think that the hyper-advanced computers of the future of the year 3100 and some odd years would be able to determine something like that. You know, machine learning being what it is, maybe it would be able to figure out immediately that, hold on, there's one element missing from all these debris fields. You know, boronite, like, you think somebody would figure this out. You would say the DMA is destroying these planets, seemingly willy-nilly, having no real plan. What are they doing? Well, maybe they're mining for something. That would be one of my first guesses. And you would look for the material that's not there, and the material that's not there is boronite. And it took 8 episodes to figure that out. Why did we need the star chart to figure that out? Why did we need to do all this crap to figure that? I don't know. Things don't seem to happen logically A, B, C, D in Star Trek Discovery, especially this season. Interesting things happen, sure, but they don't seem to logically line up the way you'd expect they would. There doesn't seem to be a trail of breadcrumbs that you can actually follow and make it make sense. Like I said, this episode is largely pointless except for that last detail, and that's kind of sad. What's really sad is this is one of the better episodes. It's pathetic when the episode is mostly terrible and doesn't really make sense, and relies on luck as a fundamental mechanic to the progress of the story, and yet it is good, relatively speaking. So, sound-wise, I didn't notice anything really particularly interesting with the music. I didn't really get any cool musical stings. Visually, it's hideous. It looks cheap. Like, the CGI is looking not great. It doesn't really pop. It's bland. Again, the uniforms are kind of ugly. It was confusing at points. There's a few exciting moments, like at the beginning and at the end. Philosophically speaking, there's something there, you know. Are you willing to burn your bridges with your significant other for your ideals? You know, are you willing to put the needs of the many over the needs of the few? Or the one? That one being Michael. Is she willing to cut off ties with Booker and potentially have to kill him in order to save the Federation from the wrath of the 10C. I would be much more invested in this if I really believed that the 10C were a thing. We're operating totally off assumptions here that the 10C are even real. We're just believing that the DMA is not a natural phenomenon. We're just believing it. And we're also believing that at the center of this bean-shaped area of space, there's a civilization in there that is thinking, that is not just an animal. It's not like the crystalline entity. It's a sentient species that is advanced. And we don't, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. Okay, I don't believe it yet. It's not, I haven't been given significant proof. Why didn't we send in a probe? Like 6 episodes ago? Whatever. This has been Star Trek Discovery, Season 4, Episode 8, All In. And I'm going to have to give this episode a 5.5. It is a little bit better than nothing. I'd rather watch it than not watch it. Even though it pained me to start up this episode. It pained me to click play, and it pained me to get up off my ass and review it. But there you go. What's going to happen next episode? Are we going to find the 10C? Are we going to stop Booker? Many of the questions I'm asking are similar to the questions I had last episode. So, take that for what it's worth.